Okay, so welcome back. Hope you had a good lunch, but not too much so that you're still awake and not sleeping. So today we're going to have two activities. The first one is, first of all, trying to figure out what the advantages of this and disadvantages of cloud computing are. You're going to be working in groups. And the second one after that is working on the Amazon cloud, which is going to take most of the time. But this I think, could take us around 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes. Okay. So the groups that you are in, so you have groups of 4 and groups of 3, so each row you can work together. You already have your notebooks, so I want you to actually record what you come up with. What you're going to do is you're going to come up with 8 advantages of cloud computing and 8 disadvantages of cloud computing. Okay? So you have 15 minutes, time yourselves. After you're done, I'm going to get what you came up with, and then if there are things that are missing, I'll just add them. You need to know what the good and bad is before you start using it. That's why we're covering this. Okay, any questions? Okay, so we're going to be roaming around, asking questions, guiding you to make sure you're on the right track. Here is when you start getting to know your group. If you want someone to be acting as a team leader, that's fine. But just make sure that everyone is contributing and sharing their ideas, and that you're also respecting everyone's ideas. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Yes? The rows. The rows are the groups. Yeah. Part of working as engineers, guys, is working in groups. Engineers, most of the time, work in groups. You're supposed to do one part of a project, and someone else has to do another part. Then you talk together at how what you're doing is going to fit someone else's work. And that's very common, of course, in programming languages also, where you do one part and the other person just needs to know what the input and the output is, and you provide them your code, and they just use it. You don't need to know what's inside the code, as long as the communication between you has gone well. And you have project managers, you have team leaders, and you have people acting as chairs, making sure that things are going on track. And actually next year, or whenever you join engineering, there's a first-year course. It's an introduction to engineering course, engineering strategies and practices, that's what it's called. It teaches you this, and I'm a TA for that. And it's interesting because it lets you know how engineers actually work in practice. So you have the opportunity to do that now. Start doing that, and we'll see how creative you can be and how you can come up with all of these. I'm guessing 4 or 5 are easy. The last 3 are going to be a bit more difficult, both for the advantages and both for the disadvantages. And now we can check whether you were listening during the lectures and whether you were listening during the video. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so it's 10 past. You have 15 minutes. Then, I have a few slides discussing these. I have actually around 15 of each. And then after those, they'll be doing the activity on the Amazon cloud themselves, using it. But before you use something, you need to know what's good and bad about it, right? And I want them to start interacting in groups.
If you have a bigger server, you need obviously need more cooling, so power can be an issue. Expensive power. Yeah, just write expensive power.
If you host it by yourself, you don't pay. If you want this, you need to pay for it.
We have to pay a monthly fee of $20. Over time, it's going to be way more.
Do you guys have an idea what to do? Maybe, what are some of the advantages you have? very easy to access. So just for
I think consider the cost about
or thinking about interpersonal use and you realize filming.
What other
For each of your, you just spread out, or if you're smaller or more supply and more demand, I guess. It's more supply, more demand. More demand, more supply.
I don't even know where I put my batteries now. Yeah, I put it down somewhere.
no advantage maybe is like
cheap. Yeah, it's cheaper. Yeah, I know where it went.
disadvantage. They are not good quality.
Maybe not good.
Easy to another pro is like you're able to pull
Maybe
resources.
they don't have good server.
You have a bunch of
Maybe it's harder to set up.
They set up to find the pieces of the material.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, material.
in terms of what it's capable to do. You'll have more power when you need it. A server is going to be more powerful than an individual.
But that's advantage.
Like versus, I have a question for you. What if technology changes?
Which way?
Think of a traditional way of doing things and think of cloud computing. What if
Suddenly
technology is changing? Which is better?
So let's say technology keeps like increasingly like getting better, like exponential. So would it eventually like hardware will take over? You have to carry it around.
It's here. It's look. We wrote it down cheaper. Did you write it down?
You don't have to.
Reduce cost.
Okay. So there's no problem.
Small companies are
You have
reducing
demand.
cost.
You like demand like the slow end. So you guys on big companies. So hey.
Cheap or expensive?
If only we could
Let's say like a house with a family thing.
Yeah.
Would it be expensive?
Yep.
You could write out propositions and then just wait. Constitution has the constitution here. Be your technology, more option, more choice, more problem with that.
Maybe gain less user fee.
No problem. Well, because
Gain less user fee.
they have a pretty good question over there.
Some user pay for
Question? Yeah. About
It is. The resources that we're going to be using on the Amazon Cloud,
just say
subscription is zero.
So you use the space.
You use based on how much you're uploading on it. That's it. If you're uploading like 5 megabytes and then posting a website, you have it on. You don't have to have a server on all the time. You pay once for it, like $50, and that's it. Based on the cost and like analysis that I was showing you, the ratios are.
What I was thinking is that it's, I kind of thought of it as
You don't have to have a huge membership. at the
Exactly.
beginning.
That's
No, you
what-
don't have to.
So
No,
I
no.
was thinking for a company, of course it's going to be cheaper because no matter how expensive the membership is, it's never going to be more expensive than running a server.
No.
But for the user, like for a household, for example,
No, no. And anyone with like minimal knowledge can use it. That's why you have the different tiers also. So if you're not technical enough to know the lower tiers, you can
is that
have.
like rapid share or something like that? Where you post
Yes.
something on-
Yeah. Similar type of idea.
You have all paper.
Yeah, I put server crash for
doesn't
that.
that happen with every single
Yes.
Yeah, that's a disadvantage overall.
So server state crash.
Well, that's an overall disadvantage for any type of server.
All that in
But yeah, it is a disadvantage for cloud computing.
Cloud computers base its servers, right? So it's still, cloud computers are all only existing servers, right?
Yeah, there's still some type of server. It's only the fact that you can control the capacity.
Are we gonna build anything or?
Is there any computer labs? Think about what might be able to build.
We're gonna build a website.
Well, we said those. like there were different categories. At least I'll try out relying on so no matter what, the supply is always above demand. That's why this is a lot more efficient.
Is that increases automatically?
Yeah, it increases with if you have 5 customers, so you order 6 amount, right? So you want one more than what's demanded, just in case. So you have 5, and then let's say you have 10 customers. You're going to order 12, just in case. You know?
Do you know who has that?
All right. So how many did you, group 1, we'll call you group 1. How many did you come up with?
Advantages, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and disadvantages
3. Here I heard 7 somewhere.
8 to get all.
Google?
No.
No? Okay. So what I'm going to do is, you'll tell me what you have. Let's start 1 from each group. And then I'll add the stuff that you might have missed. Okay, I think I have 15 and 15 of each. So let's start from there. Advantage. Saves resources. Okay, next. Group 2. Let's start from there. Group 1, group 2.
Saves time.
Saves time. In what sense?
And perhaps process.
So what Steve Jobs was talking about, in order not having to maintain your own stuff, someone else is doing it?
Yeah.
Okay, saves time for maintenance. Group 3.
You can access your files from multiple locations. Data.
You can
Or devices.
access your information from various different places. 4. Reduced cost. Okay, so again, more efficiency, reduced cost.
It's available for small companies that can afford their own stuff.
So available for small companies. So cloud computing allows smaller companies to go into the market because they now don't have to own all of the equipment. They could just basically rent it through cloud computing and they could compete. Yes?
Part of it being efficient is that it's less power.
Less power demanding throughout the year when you're having a less than peak demand. Let's start again. Another advantage. Sorry? You don't have to have your whole storage with you. The storage will be on the cloud. Yes?
Is portability efficient, so you can have access of it anywhere?
You can, yes, actually I have that listed. So portability, you can access it from anywhere, and you can think of it as you have it with you anywhere without carrying it with you. So with your thin devices, you can access whatever you want, wherever you are, as long as you have internet and you're not in, I don't know, North Pole or something. Next.
We said multiple users can access data.
Multiple users. Now, this is very useful in an enterprise environment when you're, again, we mentioned engineers work in groups. So with setting up group credentials, there could be user accounts, and one person would be uploading things that other people need. For example, a manual for a software package that all of them are using, and other people can access it, right? So this is very useful in practice. I know I use those resources every day in my research group. Next.
Much faster access.
Much faster access. So similar notions that we saw in the video. Instead of using your own resources and trusting your own memory, and you can do it through gig Ethernet, which is relatively fast. Yes?
Say there's space at your company, so you don't have to have a room for your...
So you don't need the storage space for all of the devices. You're using the resources on the cloud, so you don't need to have space for it, especially in Toronto because it costs a lot. Yes? Okay. Any more advantages? Any of you? Yes?
Servers are more powerful than hardware?
Servers are more powerful. I mean, during the time that you need powerful processing, you can afford it easier. You don't need to own it from that sense, but you can also like buy those. So it's not necessarily a cloud computing issue. It's more of a cloud computing gives you those resources in a cheaper way. Kind of, you don't have to own those supercomputers, especially because their price goes down faster than your regular computers. Okay, any other advantages? Yes.
We thought that because if a lot of companies got cloud computing, it would cause a lot of competition, and that competition would open up choices for users.
Exactly. So lots of competition, because now the smaller companies could afford to host their services. More companies, more competition means lower price. Who's happy? Users are happy, right? At the end of the day, if you're paying less, you're happy. Any other advantages? Yes?
It's 24/7 online.
24/7 online. So instead of having to keep your server on all the time, and I don't know, maybe you don't want to wake up people, it's noisy, and it's wasting energy while you don't need it. Here you can use the cloud computing resources that are available. You're never going to hear them. They're never going to bother you. And you only access them whenever you need them. But they're available on 24/7. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Agility. So this means you can adjust to things that you have. You have additional demands coming in. You can adjust to those needs, right? So as we saw with the capacity and the capacity graphs with the supply, you can monitor what is happening in your network, and if the demand is increasing, you can request more capacity, right? And you can also automate this process that you don't actually need to monitor manually. You can have scripts that do this for you. You know, you can have a formula saying if I have, I don't know, the supply reached 105% or like 5% more than what I have, which means the demand is coming very close, you immediately get more resources, and then when you don't need them, it automatically reduces this. Another thing in terms of agility, we were talking earlier with one of your colleagues, is newer technologies. So if you buy your own desktop now and you buy the newest thing, you pay, I don't know, anything from $1,000 to $2,000 depending on what you want to do with it. Then a year later, something in the technology changes. Okay, you got the networking on it as 100 megabits per second. Then all of a sudden, all of the desktops are Gig E. All your friends have faster networking. You're playing online games. They're beating you because you're seeing stuff 5 seconds later. The wireless technology is changing. For example, on your laptop, you had a 2.11G, and now it's N, let's say. So what are you going to do? Are you going to throw away what you had and buy a new one? So in terms of agility, if you think of a smaller company, cloud computing provides an agile solution. You're not in charge of making things newer. Whoever you're renting from is responsible for that. You don't care. Technology changes, they deal with it. What I want is the newest thing at the newest price, right? It's not, you don't have to deal with, oh, I have to plan 10 years ahead of time to buy the equipment that I need because I want it to work later. I don't want to sell all of these things. Okay. Application programming interface API accessibility. So this is at the second level, the platform as a service. So with cloud computing, now you have the capability to use engines such as the Google App Engine to develop new applications in a very easy way, right? As long as the platform is the same, you can run a particular thing. And you have this across different platforms for different devices. Let's see, cost. So this is a very important element. The cost is being reduced, but what is actually changing? If you've taken any economics courses, or you might take them later, there's something called as the initial cost, or the capital cost, and then you have the operations or maintenance cost. So you have, traditionally what we were doing is buying infrastructure, buying capital stuff, labs like these, or servers, right? Now your capital is not going to be as big. You don't need to have that much money to buy stuff at the beginning, which means you're going to be loaning less money from people, right? You can start with not a lot of funds, as long as your technology is good, and you can rent resources online from cloud computing resources. And what is happening is there's a shift from buying things at the beginning to more operational expenses. What does operational expenses mean? It means you only pay when you use them, right? So on your income statement, for example, or on your balance sheet, you'll have more of this, less of that, which means smaller companies can actually do better. And over the long run, this is, of course, far less than owning the capital at the beginning. Just an idea. I teach an engineering economics course, and this is common there. Does anyone know what cost of capital is? Any idea? Cost of capital is the cost of owning capital. If you want to open up your own company and you want to have your servers, you need a $100,000 server, right? There's a cost associated with that. Most likely, you don't necessarily have the money right away. You're supposed to loan the money, right? Have that server, and every year you're paying for that, right? You're paying back your loan. That is not going to be cheap. That could be anything from 5% to 3% to 10%, depending on who you loaned it from and how bad or how good your credit is. But shifting from cost of capital to operational expense means I can have almost zero capital. I don't need to have huge data centers and servers at the beginning. That means I don't need to rent, I don't need to be lending money for those resources. I could just basically pay operational expenses, but what am I doing at the same time? I'm getting paid from the user right away, right? I'm getting paid from the user and I'm paying operations expenses. I don't have to suffer ridiculously high costs at the beginning with huge capital expenses. Okay, device and location independence. I don't even have to know where my servers are. They could be anywhere as long as I can access them and I can use them with any device. Virtualization, as we mentioned before, you're virtualizing your resources so that different people are using them at the same time. Different operating systems are using them at the same time. So this is very interesting. Multi-tenancy is the notion of the server has the software, and different clients are running that software from the server. So let me give you an example. With some of the apps on the App Store, you pay for it once, but if you can use it on multiple devices. I know a friend. There's 6 in the family. They all have iPhones. They all drive. They have 4 cars. And they have bought this really expensive dynamic navigation system, which costs $40. You'll be like, why the heck would you pay $40? Well, it's good. Plus, 6 of them have them on their iPhones when they're driving. So basically, different people can use the same instance of the software without paying 6 different instances for it. So without paying $240, they're only paying $40 for it. Helps centralization, utilization, and efficiency. I wouldn't pay for it myself, but if I had 5 other people sharing it with me, I would pay for it. Okay. More advantages. Reliability. So we had a question about this, whether there are backups for my data. My data is on these cloud computing resources, but now I don't need to care about it anymore. I know that they have backups for the stuff, so if they have a problem, they have to deal with it. They fix it, but I won't lose my data. My data is secured. My data is secured from the perspective of it's not going to go anywhere. And that's what we heard also in the video, that for 7 years he hasn't had to back up any of his data because it's now guaranteed to be available by the cloud computing company. Scalability and elasticity. So scalability with the demands that you have, and elasticity also. Performance monitoring. So on the fly, I can be monitoring what is, how the demand is changing and adjusting to that, which is actually really hard if you have your own devices. Security improved with centralized data. So interesting. Security in advantages, right? A lot of us, I guess, were thinking security in terms of disadvantages. At least I can see it here under advantages. Security improved in terms of centralized data. Now, on the cloud, it's easier for me to access data. I have one authentication system, and I don't have to deal with anything else. I can have different people in my organization have access to that data, or I can have myself have access to that data. And because it's centralized, because it's in one place, it's improved security from that perspective. Okay? Now we'll see again in the disadvantages how you might deal with security from different perspectives. Maintenance is made easier, as was mentioned. Okay, now the disadvantages. So let's go back. Let's start from there. Let's see what you came up with.
You said
Requires network connectivity. Okay.
As you said before, that if there's a problem in the company that provides the servers, you need to trust them that they will have a backup plan.
So trust them. So you need to trust that your data is going to be available. Now, the type of agreements that you would have when you're using such resources, you have it's called SLA, service level agreement. You have a minimum requirement of how much bandwidth you have, for example, what resources you're using there, and those should be guaranteed. Also, your data is usually they're supposed to have redundancy, so that if they have faults in their systems, that it is available. Yes. Yes.
Smaller companies who have cloud computing, if there's a crash occurring, they might lose users and therefore get affected by greater damage.
So this is an interesting way of looking at it. If you have, of course, you'll be paying for the different resources that you're using, and smaller companies who don't want to pay too much might choose less redundancy, for example, in order to save money. But that would mean if, because of a fault which was not their problem, they might lose customers because their server, for example, wasn't available, or you had a rush of transactions and they couldn't handle that because they hadn't planned ahead. It's an interesting way of looking at it. Yes? Disadvantages.
For a client, the data is remote and not physically with them. So if you have say a USB with your info, then it could be more secure.
So more secure because your data is not actually with you. So are you thinking of it from a security perspective or privacy perspective? I'm just wondering.
Security and, more security.
Security, okay.
So say the building with all servers, something falls apart.
So basically you don't have it in a physical place where things locked, your actual data is somewhere else, you don't know what's happening with it, basically. Yeah.
To go with security, you have to trust the company that you're putting your data with. Because if Facebook has all your data, well, they can do whatever they want with it.
Yes, these things are written in the terms of agreement. Usually, terms of use and agreement, we usually don't read these things. It's unfortunate, but if you read some of these things, they'll be shocking that you're already signing on and you're saying, I agree to those. But this is actually a very, very, very big issue. And there are different ways of dealing with it. The most important thing is, especially with cloud computing resources, is to know exactly what you're signing up for. Yes. Group 1, disadvantage, please. Vulnerable to hacks. Yes, I have reference for that actually. Okay, disadvantages.
If there's a problem, let's say you're running your own server and you have a problem, you can, if you choose to fix it right on the spot, have it
So this is a very good notion. I was thinking about this earlier. I don't think I even have it here. So if you have your own server and you need to fix it right away, you can fix it right away. But if issues happen with the cloud computing service and there isn't enough redundancy, that there was a big problem that even the redundancy that was available did not solve the issue that you have, it's going to be really hard to push them to actually solve something because you're not their first choice, right? They have too many customers that they're going to serve the ones who are most important first. Yeah.
We don't have
if your demand doesn't vary very much, then it's you're not getting a lot of the advantages of cloud computing. True, but that's uncommon. You usually have variations. They don't have to be too big, but you always have variations. It's because of how people behave, and like people have to sleep during particular time. So during that time, they're not using stuff unless they're downloading all their I don't know, illegal torrents and stuff at night. But depending on human behavior, you have a varying demand even during the day and during different times of the week or month. So you have lots of people buying stuff before Valentine's Day, before Christmas, and all of those things, which contribute to these varying demands. Yes? Do you have any other disadvantages? Any other disadvantages? Yes?
It's application-based, which makes it very restricted.
Not all of it is the application-based. As we mentioned, there are three different things. If you're buying the software as a service, that is the only one which is application-based. The other ones, you can build your own applications on top of them. So as you will see with the activity in a bit, that you can put whatever you want on it. You have a Linux server. So you can put whatever you wish on it. You don't have to use any application that's on there. Okay, any other disadvantages? Okay, yes? Hard to locate? Allocate. It's not your problem. The hypervisor, the one that we had here, it has to allocate the resources. In terms of like where they want the resource? Is that what you're asking, or? Sorry? So users usually have the choice of where they want their server. You will see today on the Amazon Cloud, you can actually choose which city you want your server to be on, to be in. Yeah, you have a choice of that. Of course, as I was saying before, if you have it in different locations and you're transferring information from different locations, it might cost you a bit more. Yes? Yeah.
I just have a question. Is that why, like, for example, like games or whatever, they have servers like European and North American, or because if you connect, let's say, to your server here, it would be really slow?
It's not slow. You have a bigger delay. Because you're crossing the Atlantic, usually the connection that you have wouldn't be fiber, it would be satellite, so you have to go up and then down. The delay for that is, I think, around half a second, which is quite big. And just so that you have an idea, usually you can reach any point within 6 or 7 hops, anywhere in the world. But some of those hops, your networking hops, could be half a second, such as the satellite ones. So, for example, the North Pole data center that I was mentioning, that might be satellite. I'm not sure, but that might be satellite to reach it. That's why you have to make sure, for example, the Facebook profile is not there, because you want it accessible. Some of the older albums, for example, might be there. I don't know what exactly that they're putting there. But whenever things get further away, it's the initial delay that you have, that would be bigger. Okay, any other disadvantages you thought of? Okay, let's see what I have here. Privacy. You don't know what's happening with your data most of the time, because we don't need what we sign up to. We just say, I agree, and then next. Compliance with regulations requires community and hybrid deployment, more expensive. Now, here is one of the things. You have different regulations within different countries. Sometimes you have different regulations within different enterprises of where the data has to be. In order to make sure all of these things fit, you might need to do, you might need contribution from people. You might need to have, to be sharing resources on, so for example, having the hybrid cloud, having some of the private information on, within your company, and some, using the public cloud for some of the other data. And this might sometimes be more expensive because there are lots of legal ramifications on where your data needs to be and where, who's accountable for what losses. So this is what we were mentioning. So trademark infringement and sharing of proprietary data. So some of the data, let's say technology which has been patented within a company, that type of information should not be on a should not be put on a public cloud, right? So you have some legal issues for that. So open source cloud computing software. So with every type of software, there are things that are open source, which means they are freely available for people to use, and they have the whole code, and they can change it, they can build on it. And then you have closed stuff such as what Apple usually provides, Apple or Microsoft, I guess. So legally, if you're using an open source cloud computing software, you need to know every single thing within the code to actually make sure that there are no bugs in the code. The code is there. If you don't see it, it's your own fault. But this poses a legal loophole, because if problems happen with the person who wrote the code, they could tell you, the source code is there, you should have found it. Okay? So it becomes a problem because you can't sue anyone. The code is open source. So you have what the actual developer of the code has. So it is your responsibility to check everything in it. So that's why you have a legal loophole here. While with closed source cloud computing software, you can sue people basically if problems happen. Yeah, but you have to pay for them.